Hi, I'm Carmen. I'm a teacher, a fellow ADHDer, and a certified life coach. And I started this podcast with the intention of giving ADHDers everywhere a sense of understanding of this super complex neurodevelopmental disorder and to create a fabulous and safe place to share the struggles, the wins, and the newest researched strategies to help you be the you that you've always dreamed to be. Are you ready? Let's get started. I wanted to start my first episode with what is ADHD, really? ADHD has a terrible name, attention deficit disorder. We are not deficited in anything except for our regulation. We have an abundance of feelings, emotions, attention, and we just can't regulate it all because of the lack of norepinephrine and dopamine receptors in our brain. I know that's a little sciencey. Basically, the happy, joy, the stuff that gets you to do the mundane, boring tasks of the everyday. Those are the things that are underdeveloped in the ADHD brain. ADHD is a mood disorder, it's a learning disability, and it's a mental health condition. It can't be cured, but it can be managed. It has to be managed because we are underdeveloped in several ways. Our prefrontal cortex is smaller. It'll never be fully developed, and that's where all of our executive functions lie. Things like planning, task initiation, setting goals, knowing how long something's going to take. Those are all things that have to do with cognitive functions of the executive function of the brain. We also feel things very deeply. One of the reasons that they say this happens is because of our underdeveloped prefrontal cortex, our amygdala. Yeah, it tries to compensate. And then there's this other part, the limbic part of our brain, actually also tries to compensate by using feelings to drive actions, which is not always the greatest thing. So in girls, ADHD has been known as a boy's disability for a long time. Girls are just now getting diagnosed because they're learning that there are several subtypes of ADHD. So those are the things I'm going to go into today, and I am going to let all of them kind of flow. I'm going to start with the one that I personally have. It's called combined type. So the combined type is combined hyperactive and inattentive ADHD. So hyperactivity shows up differently in adults. Usually it's internalized, means you feel run by a motor, means that you feel like the anxiety in your body, you feel like you can't sit still sometimes. There are also things associated with inattentiveness, like distractibility, forgetting important details, and forgetting important things, items. Both of hyperactivity and inattentiveness are linked together in the combined type. So I'm one of the lucky few that has all symptoms of hyperactivity and symptoms of inattentive. So in a primarily inattentive type, you're going to see more of that forgetfulness, inattention, daydreaming, forgetfulness, poor attention to detail. And again, these are just descriptions. I don't agree with the way that they're worded, but those types of things. In hyperactive adults, you will see more things like they cannot sit still, they have anger outbursts, they cannot sleep well, and they have a hard time calming down. Those are just a few things that are in each subtype of ADHD. Right now, I want to take the time to thank Anchor for being a free podcast creator. It makes it easy for people like me, people like you, to get started, make a podcast on something that you're super passionate about. So, ADHD. I'm passionate about it. I have it. I've researched it. I'm a life coach, fellow ADHDer, and I hope that this mini episode gave you a little bit of clarity. See you next time. Do you forget things even if they're super important? Do you have a hard time setting goals and reaching them? Do you have a hard time breaking big tasks down into small pieces? How about emotions? Do you have emotional outbursts? Feel like you're the only one crying at the commercial? How about your space? Organized or messy? How about your time? In your mind? Organized or messy? Can you keep friends? How easy is it for you to make friends? If you relate to any of these questions, you could possibly have ADHD. I just want to tell you that I am not a doctor. I am a life coach. I am not a nurse practitioner. I am a teacher. I am not a certified medical anything. I am a podcaster. So you should go find a psychologist and get an evaluation so you can get started treating it today. Not only is ADHD a learning disability, and it's in the DSM-5 as a mental health illness, it's a mood disorder, and it is also a regulation disorder, basically. We cannot regulate our feelings. We cannot regulate our attention. We cannot regulate, not that we cannot regulate, but we have a hard time regulating these things. Actions, the things that happen to us, we feel them way more deeply than other people. People with ADHD who are undiagnosed younger are more likely to develop addictions or to develop self-image issues. Even growing up and being diagnosed later in life causes for more percentage of the fact that you will have depression and or anxiety and or other coinciding mood disorders. A psychiatrist actually did also say that anybody diagnosed with ADHD is subclinically ODD, oppositionally defiant, meaning our brains just don't like doing what we tell them to do or what other people tell them to do. They don't like to listen to anything. They basically like to do what they want, and we have to rein our brains back in order for our brain to do what we want it to do at the time we want it to do it. Some people who don't have ADHD, they love to ask about hyperfocus. Now, I love my hyperfocus when it comes along at a great time. But what I explain to people is that hyperfocus usually doesn't come at a convenient time. It's usually when you're supposed to be doing something else, like going to bed or something else important in your day. So I have found that hyperfocus is not necessarily like a superpower of ADHD, but it is something that can be useful if you use it correctly. Another point about ADHD is that it can be treated in a multimodal fashion. Actually, the benefits of being treated in all three areas, medication, cognitive behavioral therapy, and coaching, is one of those things that it's just needed. At least the medication and one of the two therapy types, coaching or cognitive behavioral therapy. I mean, those two things have changed my life personally. I would recommend them to anybody, and I know that the millions of other people in the ADHD program I'm in right now would recommend that you join because it changed my life. Get into a community where people understand you. Connect with me on Instagram. Connect with me through this podcast. Let's be friends. And let's chat about ADHD, the troubles, the hardness of it, the awesomeness of it, and all the things ADHD. See you next week. Hey listener, have you subscribed to this show yet? If you're enjoying it, I suggest hitting the little subscribe button under the podcast main page so that when new episodes come out, they just pop up in your feed, just like the algorithms of Instagram and Facebook when you follow things. So if you like this podcast, go click that follow button.